Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's Code Enforcement Board meeting on Thursday, April 28th, 2022. The time is now 3:30, so we can call this meeting to order. The first item that we have for today is the swearing in of a few of our board members that we have. So we have Fred Smith, Wayne, Dick Freeman, and Robin McDonald. If you'd like to come down, or you could actually stay in your place, I think, and just raise your right hand. Our city attorney will come forward and swear you guys in. So if you'd like to just stand at your seat.
Well, yeah, you can stay there. Would you raise your right hand, and then I'll ask that when I say aye, and then you state your name, okay, and then I'll give the oath. I hereby accept the honor of serving as a member of the Code Enforcement Board of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia. Can you repeat? I'm sorry. But hereby accept the honor of serving as a member of the Code Enforcement Board of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I shall faithfully perform the duties of board member, that I will regularly attend meetings and uphold the ideals of community and service, that I will act and conduct business in accordance with the city's code of ethics and conduct, and I shall support the charter and laws of the city of Alpharetta, the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia, and the Constitution and laws of the United States of America. And I will ask that you sign the oath of office as well. When I can get a pen that works, and I'll hand this up to each of you. You can give it to Lauren.
Okay. You've been welcome to this meeting of the City of Alpharetta's Code Enforcement Board. My name is Fred Smith, and I'm chairman of the board, and I now call this meeting to order. Please let the record show that the following members are present: Mr. Bauer, Ms. McDonald, Mr. Rand, and Mr. Murphy. The board operates under the authority granted by the state of Georgia under Title 36, Chapter 74 of the Code of Georgia, and through the City of Alpharetta's Code Enforcement Ordinance. Having called the meeting to order and completed the roll call, we're now ready to approve the minutes of our last meeting, and I will need a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the last month's meeting minutes.
We have a motion from Mr. Bauer. Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
We got a second from Mr. Murphy. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. The purpose of the Code Enforcement Board of the City of Alpharetta is to judicially consider the evidence presented by both the city and the respondents in the cases that come before our board. The Code Enforcement Board does not enact the laws of the city, but rather determines if the laws have been applied fairly and imposed properly in the matters before us. If this board finds that the ordinances and the codes of the City of Alpharetta have been applied properly in the cases, the board may also then impose deadlines for respondents' compliance and can institute penalties for noncompliance. The city will present its case first. After the city presents its evidence and testimony, the board may then follow with questions for the city. Then the respondents will present their side of the case, and the board may also question the respondents. Upon the completion of the board's questioning, the board will then consider evidence and will present a finding of fact. If we find the respondent guilty, the board may then choose to issue orders requiring respondent's compliance and impose appropriate penalties in the event of noncompliance. I caution the respondents to make good use of the time that they have at the podium, and once the board begins deliberation, there can be no more presentation of evidence. I ask that everyone remember two things. The first one is, when addressing the board, please speak at the podium and speak directly into the microphone. And the second is, I ask you to address all your comments to me, the chairman, and I'll route them and handle them in the appropriate manner. These proceedings are part of a public record, and if you're going to make testimony before this board, you'll need to come forward and be sworn, and I will ask the city attorney to swear those individuals in now.
If there's any individuals providing testimony today, you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Our first item is CE 220176, Manchester at Mansell Apartments, 401 Huntington Drive, LLC. And I believe Officer Jackson, this is your case?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Thank you all for being here today. Case number CE 220176 was opened due to an accumulation of rubbish and garbage found on March 28, 2022. Code enforcement noticed a large amount of accumulated rubbish and garbage located at the trash compactor site. Since code enforcement had recently closed a case of the same violation on 1/27/2022 and had a history of open and closed cases, code enforcement issued a notice of violation. This is a photo showing the location of the trash compactor and its proximity to the residential apartments. And I can't see that very well on this screen, but it's just less than 100 feet from the trash compactor. This photo shows the condition of the area around the trash compactor on 3/28/2022, the day of the notice of violation. Code enforcement met with Bonnie Gray, property manager, and Patricia Frey, regional manager, on the same day to explain the notice of violation. Ms. Gray was aware of the accumulated garbage and indicated that it may take several steps to fix the problem to gain compliance. Ms. Gray was new to the apartment complex but understood the violation and said she would do her best to gain that compliance. A date of 3/29 was given to bring the rubbish and garbage into compliance. Since there had been prior violations and the violations posed a health and safety hazard to the residents, 1 day was given to clean up the rubbish. The code section used for this violation was code section 308.1, rubbish and garbage. The accumulation of rubbish or garbage, all exterior property and premises, and the interior of every structure shall be free from any accumulation of rubbish or garbage. We're also mentioning the health and safety within this case, and the health and safety definition within the code is violations involving the health or safety of a third party, meaning a violation that creates a legitimate concern for the health and safety of a third party occupant or a dwelling place, or that creates an immediate and substantial danger to the environment. A follow-up visit was made on 3/31/2022 with the understanding that the deadline would be 3/29. The photo shows the property remained non-compliant. We also conducted follow-up visits on 4/5, and this is a picture of that day on 4/5. And then again on 4/11, code enforcement issued, and then again on 4/11. On 4/11, code enforcement issued a summons to appear before the code enforcement board on 4/28/2022. The following recipients received a summons, including the registered agent for 401 Huntington Drive LLC. Post summons, code enforcement visited 401 Huntington Drive on 4/12, again on 4/19, and then also on 4/25. 4/25 was this week, and as you can see, the compactor was empty. However, there was still a good amount of rubbish around the dumpster. And finally, the following slides show code enforcement case history. Code enforcement opened cases for the same violation that were eventually closed due to bringing property into compliance. We do, however, understand that the new owners have only been there for just about a year now. So they are not part of some of this case history from 2019. However, it has been a problem in that development for some time. So in 2019, we had a case that shows these photos, 2021, these photos, and then again in 2022. Thank you. That concludes the city's case. I'm prepared to address any questions that the board may have.
Anybody have any questions? Just for clarification, the compactor, there's no way to tell whether it's the same compactor that was there for a year or it's just a...
Well, there is obviously there's no way to tell, but there is a structure built around it with a gate on one end of it. So, you know, it could be moved in and out during that period of time.
All right, okay.
Any other question?
So what was the apartment complex's response to the notices, or they make any promises, or?
Let's see. Bonnie, who was the manager at the time, was receptive to making changes. However, she did indicate that there were a number of items necessary to get to the point where the compactor issue was remedied. She cited possibly having the gates closed at the entrance, more pickups of trash, and that sort of thing. So she felt like there were a number of items that she needed to get into place in order to rectify the problem.
It's kind of hard to tell on here, and I just have a question. What are those signs that are on the trash compactor? Do they say anything about dumping trash, or does it?
Let me see if I can see better on my printouts.
I'm just curious. If it is about dumping trash, it's not working, but.
Well, I think part of it is, you know, for residential use only and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Officer Jackson, I think I can
Can
read
you
it
see
a
it
little bit
better?
here. Yeah, it says dumpsters for tenants' use only, violators will be prosecuted.
Okay, all right,
I
thank
think
you.
that's on the green one. I can't really see what the red and yellow one says, but I'm thinking that's maybe a warning, like
Yeah.
safety warning kind of thing, maybe.
Okay.
Warning, security cameras in use.
Security cameras in use, okay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And you can also see that the trash compactor is such that it's just an open chute on the end. And they fill that up, and when that fills up, for whatever reason, if the compactor's not working, then that's when all the rubbish begins to flow over
Okay,
into the parking lot.
any other questions?
Is this the only bin or trash on the complex, or are there others?
Yes, that's, to my knowledge, that's the only place for rubbish to be dumped.
Okay,
Yeah.
any other questions? I think that's good for right now. Thank you,
Chairman.
thank you, Officer Jackson. And we have a representative from the apartment complex. Could you come forward? And tell us who you are and what your position is with the organization?
Yes, my name is Patricia Frey. I'm on the list. I'm the regional manager. I'm based out of Orlando, but I do represent two of the properties that we have here in Atlanta. Just go ahead and start? Okay. So the picture from the 25th of this month, yes, that is correct. We ordered bulk pickup from that point. It was cleared. I have pictures on my cell phone. Our printer was not working, or I didn't have access to print today. But I do have pictures on the 26th, all clear and cleaned up. On the 27th, all clean, all cleared up. Today, as I drove out, checked again, took more pictures. The manager that I did have in place has been gone for almost 2 weeks now, so I've been here all week. I do understand this has been an ongoing problem. I started over this property in April last year, and it was an ongoing issue. Code enforcement was very generous with us while we were doing renovations, and we had open tops at the time, and we had a lot of traffic coming in from off the streets and dumping, and that was causing a lot of accumulation. Once we were able to get those off-site, then we noticed that there was another additional problem. So what we have in place and what I can state is that so far this year we have spent roughly $109,000 just in bulk pickup and trash pickup alone, which is normally more than a year's accumulation of trash pickup. But we are doing daily bulk pickups, especially like when we have evictions that take place and items are set across on the curb. We're having those picked up as well. I've also hired 2 temps in the interim. Their first thing in the morning is they're cleaning up around. In regard to the trash coming up over that compactor area, we just received a bid to build a wall, but we've got to pull permits for it, and that's going to help pacify that. It is the same compactor from my knowledge. A few of the instances where waste management has been short-staffed as well, so when we call in for our pickups, they don't show up. My maintenance supervisor, who is out on medical leave, he doesn't come back for 4 weeks. I couldn't obtain that information of his call log from when they could not pick up and when he would call, so we went through that too. Also having to call Valet Living, who is our doorstep trash service, to come and do bulk pickups every day during that time frame that they could not take care of the trash. As well, so what we have decided to do or have already started pulling access on and bids is, one, the wall to help negate that section. Also re-fencing out the area. We did find out that Valet Living does not have a key to the compactor, and in their contract they're supposed to have a key so they can compact as they go, because sometimes it doesn't catch when you close the door. So that's been taken care of. We're also on daily trash walks with our team and our residents due to Valet Living causing a little bit of this. However, they're short-staffed as well as the rest of the country is. But with our asset owner, he has asked me to pull bids for flock cameras. That has been a lot of our problem, is people are dumping off bulk off the side of the street. We've caught a few people and then run them off, try to catch their tag numbers if we can. We do have cameras, but we're going to be installing more cameras so we can have better awareness of who is dumping at what times to be able to help that situation. Our gates will be closing in a week. We've just issued out all of the key fobs so we can help eliminate that like after hours traffic coming in. We've also found trash being brought over from Land Rover and already had that discussion with them. And there are openings in the gate where kids come through and just kind of cause havoc with trash and stuff like that. We're actually going to gate off the entire community at this point to kind of help supersede with that. Let's see if I have everything on here. Oh, we are adding additional signage because, yes, that is very small. As you can see from the signs, it's very hard to read. But we're having the same challenge at one of our other sites, so we've ordered signage for both properties. And then that is all.
Well, it sounds like you're trying to rectify the problem. And I'm curious, has this happened at other properties that's in this company?
Here and in Florida. I have the same challenges because waste management seems to be short-staffed, and so does Valet Living. And trying to negate those contracts and get money back, I mean, because our expense is enormous compared to what it should be.
Right.
You know, it's kind of, it's their fault saying we're short-staffed, but we're gonna get there. We're still doing our job at the end of the day, but it just falls short somehow. We are, putting in extra efforts now. I've gotten that approved from our asset owners. They were at the property last week, saw the same situation, and I was like, these are the pictures I've been sending you. This is a, huge problem for us, and these are the extra steps that they've now allowed us to make since they've seen it in person.
I can imagine the tenants aren't happy.
Correct, and we also spent a lot of money. We went through and, you should never add extra information, but I'm gonna add it anyways, is that, there was kind of like an odor coming from there,
Sure.
so.
I can
called
imagine.
Yeah, I called people in to actually get it cleaned out. Like my guys came in, they put hazmat suits on, pressure washed the entire area.
Sure.
So it's a lot cleaner. It has kept cleaner since then. However, it is a challenge keeping that trash. But again, I do have 2 temps that we've hired. We're also short-staffed, but it doesn't matter. That's not a reason. Our residents pay to live in a clean property, and they deserve that. So we're not trying to, make this, not a nice place to live. We're trying to improve it. We spent a lot of money in renovations last year, and we want to keep improving upon the community.
Right.
Like, we're going through and working on a landscaping, issue. We've cleared out the parking lots, repaved, done all that. So, to let trash be our fault, that is a reason for people to not come in and move in. It's unsatisfactory
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah, well, when I saw the pictures,
Yeah.
I can only imagine living there and having to look out the window and see that, or drive past it, and on these few days where it's gotten to 80, it just cooks that stuff, and I can't imagine what it's like, and hazard it is for people living close by to that. So, anybody have questions?
I do from staff. Ms. Gray over here. One of the questions that came out in our management meeting was, has there been a thought, because it seems like some of the issues, for the board's information, I don't think this came up yet, but some of the issues were from bulky items getting thrown in there and clogging up actually, or binding up the compactor, not letting it work. Has there been thought, or you're experienced in apartment complexes, and your company has many, would I struggle to say on-site all the time, but a roll-off dumpster that your folks could use for bulky waste that you kept there? I know you got, 300 or so apartments, so there's pretty good turnover, and I think there's usually a lot of, like what we're seeing on the screen now, some, furniture. I'm not gonna move that, I'm just gonna dump it over here. It almost seems like if there was something there that they could use, that maybe it wouldn't go in the compactor. Maybe you could do a screen and then just get picked up as needed kind of thing. We just want to throw that out there, because some communities, I know ours does, we do a bulky waste once a year. We bring in 3 or 4 dumpsters, we put them in the parking lot and say, don't fill them any fuller than they're supposed to be. And of course, they're overflowing, but at least there's an opportunity there. And then we don't see stuff sitting at the curb and this and that kind of thing. So just a thought for you.
So one correction, my last name is Frey, not Gray.
Frey,
Gray
okay.
is the prior property manager.
Sorry about that.
Put that on record, no worries. And yes, we actually did have that prior, but we
Okay.
were asked to remove that. We're not allowed to have an open top on the property, even if we gated it in. We did have it gated in. And we were told by code enforcement that it had to be removed, it was not allowed. So we cleaned up that whole section. We actually had it as soon as you go into the community, you go all the way back to the clubhouse. It was up on the left-hand side where we had extra parking.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, but the bulk trash, that happens, I want to say almost daily.
Yeah.
So even we tried to, for a moment, even put it behind the gates, so my guys weren't, struggling with picking up all this bulk trash. But then if you put it behind the gates,
They don't use it.
the compactor can't be pulled if it needs to be pulled. And
Yeah.
then the guys are pulling it back out, and then,
If that's something you want to talk about, I'm sorry I'm taking up the board's time here, but let's discuss that offline.
yeah, we
We'll
would
talk
love to
about
have
maybe
one
yeah.
that's hidden away behind, gating. We would be happy to build like a gate, a fence, because additionally, like, again, I stated, we've spent $109,000 this year alone. A bulk pickup is $1,000 minimum, and that's daily. So every day I'm spending $1,000 just to get bulk pickup. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be more cost-effective to have a open top and have it gated in rather than paying daily fees to have it picked up.
Yeah, let's discuss that.
Okay, absolutely.
Ms. Frey, do you have a feeling, and I know you indicated you were going to install cameras, and you probably don't have them there now, but do you have a feel for how much of this bulk trash that appears in the pictures is coming from off-site?
I would probably guess to say about half of it. I would say at least half. Because we don't have that many residents moving out that are just throwing bulk trash and getting rid of furniture like that every day. We've found today alone, just residents, even just not even caring, just putting their trash by the curb. So now we're becoming investigators. I mean, I've told the team this week, become investigators. If you don't want to do it, bring it up to me. I'll put some gloves on. I'm going to go through some trash and find out who it is. And, once we find them, they'll figure it out. So it's kind of a 50-50. I mean, it's off-site plus some of it's resident education, or then just, residents just dumping right at the front because they see it. They're not going to walk up, put it in the compactor. They're going to see trash sitting there going, oh, it just goes there. So it's a catch-22. I mean, I've seen it happen. Can it be cleaned up? Yes, but there's all these proper steps that have to be involved. So we do have cameras at the compactor, but that's why we need to install, I guess, these flock cameras so it'll catch the license plate. So when we do because our cameras don't zoom in, so it's hard to see. It's pixelated wrong. That's why we're going to install extra cameras. But with the flock, we can see the vehicle or pull the vehicle number, match it to the vehicle type, and that'll give us who it is.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm still trying to figure out if you, so half of it is, call it outside of the apartment complex, and then with the gating and whatnot, that should take care of that. I'm still trying to figure out, in your opinion, do you feel like the one compactor that you have today is sufficient to meet the needs of the 300 tenant apartments that you have at the development?
I do believe the compactor is sufficient enough because it does get pulled on a timely basis. But again, we're also at the mercy of our vendors, so when they can pull it. If we were to call in today, if they have staff, they can be here tomorrow. We had it on rotation, and then they wouldn't show up. So then it came to the point where they said, you need to call us as soon as you need it. So we started on that. And then they'd say, okay, we'll be there tomorrow. They wouldn't show up. We'd be calling the next day. Okay, we're sending someone. And again, them being short-staffed as well, we're at their mercy. And then having to order bulk pickup that day just to keep up with the demand of the trash.
Yeah, and I guess this is more of a question to staff. I mean, surely you're not the only company that uses Waste Management or another vendor, but I've only seen this one case around rubbish accumulation. So I guess my question is this endemic to the city? Are we seeing a lot of other addresses that are having the same problem, or is it specific to this one location?
No, it's system-wide. In fact, I sat probably 35 minutes 2 days ago, and watched the transfer station on Maxwell Road that had semis backed up onto West Side Parkway because they didn't have enough staff to get stuff into the semis to get out. And so it was backing up traffic down onto West Side Parkway. So it's definitely a systemic issue. One thing for you that I would like to really, really improve on is your communication, not necessarily yours particularly, but when you get that new on-site manager, assistant manager, all those folks, communication with us is key.
Right.
If we know it, we can, when your residents call, whoever calls, we can de-escalate that some. Yep, we know it. It's going on. There's a fix in place, rather than it kind of boiling and boiling and boiling. And sometimes I think it's across the board that residents don't think they should have to come to the management office either. Right. So, but they do either send anonymously through our system complaints or call us up. So communication with Officer Jackson for right now, it's his area, just key. If hey, Waste Management said they're not going to come today,
Right.
shoot him an email quick.
Okay.
And then we know. We can be on the same team.
Okay. No, and sorry. You were definitely gracious enough during our renovations process, because I know we weren't allowed to have the open tops, and, you know, as long as we kept continuing, you know, the cleanup of, you know, they are getting dumped, and then, you know, such and such. No, you've definitely been gracious as far as code enforcement
Yeah,
goes.
thank you, but we'll continue that. We just
Yeah.
need to make it better.
No, I have a great assistant manager in place. He's been on the site for 4+ years. And then my maintenance supervisor, he's out on medical leave. He's due to come back in 4 weeks, and I'll make sure that he's in contact as well, because he's normally the go-to person with this.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
he's been out for 4 weeks.
Go ahead.
Mrs. Gray, how are you?
Frey.
Oh, Gray. Frey or Gray?
Frey.
Oh, Mrs. Frey. I wrote down Gray.
Frey and Frey. So
Okay.
Frey, F-R-A-Y.
All right, Mrs. Frey. Just a question from an environmental standpoint. If the wall is built and the compactor is still malfunctioning, how will, although the higher wall will accumulate and prevent it from going over, from an environmental standpoint, how will that, if the compactor is still being jammed or malfunctioning, all we're doing, so the end result, and correct me if I'm wrong if I'm misunderstanding, but the trash just gets higher, and with the surrounding communities, it could still cause a challenge, if I understand correctly, just because the malfunction of the compactor. So building a higher wall, how will that prevent malfunction, or how will that solve the solution from an environmental standpoint? And is that a fair question?
It is a fair question. And I will say it will probably only negate about 50% of that. What half of the problem is that when people see the compactor, they believe it's broken or full because it hasn't compacted. They haven't shut the door or given it the time to compact. So they're throwing it over, which that's 50% of the problem. The other 50% is when it is getting higher and higher, then it starts rolling over. So having that wall up will help some of that, because they just throw it right over or come around the side and just throw it up. So we believe, we've tried, having meetings about this, and these are the ideas that my maintenance team has come up with to kind of help negate the situation.
Thank
So
you.
we're going to try everything.
Thank you.
And you have communicated to the tenants that this is the proper way to throw garbage away?
Yes, we have sent out weekly e-blasts.
Right.
Also talking to them about how to dispose of their valet trash and use the valet system properly, and the hours of pickup, and who to call if someone doesn't pick up your trash, because that's one of the things that we have on our property, so we don't have these challenges. Okay. That's what's supposed to help this, and unfortunately it's part of the problem.
So you have the gates working now, or are they not working?
The gates are working, however,
Okay.
we have not closed them fully. We've got to get full communication out to every single resident. I want to, because we do a lot of stuff by e-blast, so we're not killing paper, killing trees.
Right.
We are going to do a full spread door to door, because not the entire community has access or doesn't check their emails, or we don't have the correct email address for them. So I want to make sure that we have staff on site, because those papers, people will read them and then just throw them on the ground.
Right.
So that's another part of our,
And then you're going to
process.
put cameras in?
yes, we're putting additional cameras in.
Okay.
And then we want to get the flock cameras. So we've priced those out at, I think they're $2,500 each. So one coming in and one going out.
So when do you think that the property will be in somewhat secure way with the gates and the cameras being installed and functional? When do you think that would be?
The cameras, I've been told, is a 6 to 8 week lead time.
Okay.
Because the cameras that we are installing are going to be Wi-Fi related versus the cameras that we have right now are hardwired. And then the flock cameras, that's an order system as well. So we've got to get the contract signed. I've already got the bids out. I've sent those to my asset management as soon as they said yes. And that all started this week as far as the additional cameras. The build out for the compactor, we already got the bid on that, and that's approved. We're just waiting for the company to tell us when they can do the work.
So what
I would
do
say
you think the
6 to 8
time?
weeks.
6 to 8 weeks for everything?
Yes.
That all the work
Not
around
the
it?
additional fencing. I know I don't have an answer on that because that was just brought up this week. So he's pulling bids for that.
Okay, the additional fencing that'll be around the compactor?
No,
Oh,
around the community.
Around the community?
Yeah, to close up
Because
the
it-
holes where there
okay.
are. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Is there a way that, I know you said you had it on your cell phone, but I think the overhead projector, you can't,
No, she'll just have to walk them up and
Oh, okay,
show the
okay.
photos if you want. If you
or
want to
she
see
could
those.
show them to you and you can say it's okay. Yeah.
Mr. Murphy, do you have another question?
What is recycling, would recycling bins help eliminate some of the overflow in the trash can, just because people would put bottles or any kind of recycling materials in, and out, has that ever been a consideration?
I hate to say that, only because I've been doing this so long. When you put the wrong item in the recycle bin, they will refuse to recycle.
My wife yells at me all the time.
Yep. Yeah, so then you can't end up recycling. So it becomes just a bigger burden. You've got to be, and I hate to say that, you've got to be in that type of community that is, all concerned about health and, recycling. Did you want me to bring you the pictures?
If you want to show them to them, yes.
Do you want to see the pictures?
Yeah. Wanted to see what,
Okay,
yeah.
on her phone?
Yeah.
So I'll start here.
Yes.
This is from Tuesday, and I went all around.
Put that in there and then I'll get them.
And then this was Wednesday, yesterday. Sorry. That's even like the gate, that's cleaned up too. And then today, before I left, sorry, I had work in it.
You will see.
Not yet, but we can find it, yeah.
And today, before I left, I was walking out. So that's today.
Okay, looks good.
Okay, great, thank you.
And then, sorry. This was yesterday,
Okay,
Okay, good.
and his picture was from Monday, did have those bulk items. And then, I'm sorry, you don't want to see my Starbucks receipts. And then this was Tuesday,
Okay,
okay.
cool.
so I'll
You
pick
need
up.
to see it? Thank you.
Thank you, and again, sorry I could not print this off. I apologize.
That's fine. Any further questions? And is there, thank you very much, Ms.
Thank
Spray.
you. Thank you.
Right.
Any action like the board would like to take? I can do something, or you can do something. I'll explain all this in a little while. Let's see here. I make a motion that we, the board, as a matter of fact and conclusion of law, find the defendant guilty of violation of Code 308.1, and should I put the section 2-152 in here too? Or health insurance, this is a place where I would do that. Okay, so find them guilty of violation of Code 308.1 and section 2-152 in this case. So I made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Any further action anybody would like to take?
Sure. I'd like just to have a discussion with the board in terms of, fining is either historically or going forward if this were to reoccur.
I was going to make a suggestion that we, because of what's going on, there's been an honest attempt to try to get this thing done, and there's some expense involved, and you are trying to get this, and it's a complicated issue because garbage gathers garbage. Somebody lays something down on the curb and it just takes off from there. A tire shows up in a creek and all of a sudden it's a tire store. So I understand that and understand what you're trying to do. Because this has been an ongoing problem, and my suggestion is that we give you at least 45 days because you said it was going to take 6 to 8 weeks to pull everything together. And then if the property should ever fall into disrepair again, I would say the fine would be $500 a day. That would be where I would start.
So how do we define disarray?
Well, not disarray, false out of compliance, I'm sorry, it's Thursday, and so.
I mean, even that is what is considered.
Well, out of compliance would be if you have piles of garbage and there's been no attempt to resolve the issue. It goes back to the pictures that Officer Jackson had. It gets into that sort of state. We've got furniture, refrigerators out there, like in the pictures that we had earlier. So it would be that falling out of compliance, and I would suspect, based on what staff has already said, that they would be in contact with Officer Jackson to say, we've got an issue with trash pickup, but we expect to see some kind of.
Yeah, I think just as a procedural thing, just so you know, what we would probably do is, if we drive out there and there's 1 or 2 bags laying on the sidewalk, that's really not an issue, unless the compactor's, piled up high and now we're starting to come out because it's, there's an issue. It doesn't sound like we're going to get that. I think they're on it now.
Right.
And I'm appreciative of that. I wish it wouldn't have taken this level, but I understand, that too. I think if we know ahead of time, like I said, that there's some communication, then I think we can work on that. But if we drive back out there next week and we see, 25 bags outside the compactor and the compactor's picked up, I think, it's a problem. It's a violation again. So it's going to be somewhat subjective, as all of code enforcement is. But, I think the guys do a great job at saying, okay, this is a problem and this is just a oops, kind of thing. So I'm comfortable with the way it was stated.
So do you want me to make that a motion, or we want to talk some more about that, or?
I might add or request a friendly amendment.
Okay.
That we go to 60 days, because if the construction and all these repairs or modifications are 6 to 8 weeks.
Give it some time in there. I'm fine with that.
Right.
So you want
right.
to make this motion, or do you want me to do this?
We can do a friendly amendment to it. If
Okay.
you accept his friendly amendment, then we can just add the friendly amendment to the motion.
Okay, I'm good with that. So we'll make it for 60 days, right? Oh, did you say 90?
Yes, sir.
So
60.
60.
So then that changes your 45 over to 60.
Yeah. I was saying at least 45, and I could go more than that, so 60 days.
So my I guess maybe a discussion, so, I'm just asking, you've got the property looking pretty good at the moment. Do we have, from a health and safety perspective, the potential to have pile up to a couple of months before this is brought in, or is this sort of just a worst case scenario, providing some flexibility? I'd hate if I were living at that apartment as a worst case to deal with another couple of months of the rubbish accumulated the way it is, irrespective of the upgrades you're making. It's still currently a safety issue.
Let me interject here 1 second. Kind of along that lines. Lauren's going to interject with she's the boss. She needs another motion because we had a vote. But I'm wondering if you would maybe, and I'm just speaking, it's you guys are the board, but if you want to separate that and say it's a 5 days for the garbage problem. Fixing the garbage problem doesn't necessarily mean building the walls and doing this other cameras and this other stuff. Fixing the garbage problem is if they have an issue, there's a roll-off there that day, or there's a plan that day to fix it. That's a fix for that. And I think that could happen really quickly. The other stuff, I think you could give them time on, and then technically they'd be in some compliance a little bit earlier, and then we would just watch and work with them at the end result. Because, I mean, we all know, that's why your screens are green today. We've got supply chain issues everywhere with everything. So I don't even know that if somebody says 6 to 8 weeks, that it might not be January, because we were told last February that the system was going to be fixed, and now we're thinking January of next year.
Yeah.
So I think that gives code enforcement some ability to work with them on that longer plan, but gives them a short period of time to fix the garbage on the ground.
To keep the garbage off the ground and the bulk stuff off of there. So we're talking about two separate motions. One of them is to that they've got to keep it in compliance as far as garbage on the outside, laying on the pavement immediately.
I think you could do it in the same motion. I don't think you need to do two, but I think you're talking, unless Lauren wants to.
I was just gonna recommend that you could essentially have separate conditions, like one sentence, that applies specifically to the trash, another condition that applies specifically to building to the wall, and then a third condition that would apply specifically to the other improvements that were being made on site to help with the deterrent of the garbage from off-site storage.
Okay, that was,
I don't think should be the city's purview to tell them what to do with the wall or gates, we should just be concerned with the trash. I would even ask that maybe the city contemplate, if there's a permit issue, to accelerate issuing the permit so they can move on with construction.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But yes, you're asking, you've got a good point there. Is that really, do we really need to tell them how to fix it?
We shouldn't. That's my opinion, but I don't think we should. I'm wrestling with this issue because there's off-site dumping going on, and that's not necessarily something that the property's controlling. They're reacting to it. They're paying for it. So, I might ask that they look into accelerating putting the gates in to stop people from coming in. That may be a major first step.
Agreed.
But that would just be a recommendation. With this, like I said, representing the city, I can't tell you to do that.
Yeah, and I think we are, we're giving you the benefit of the doubt, but there's been no proof provided to date that it is off-prem people putting it on there. We're taking your word for it. But has been no evidence to say that it's that versus just a failure to properly, take care of the trash.
well, my intent was to give some initiative to the organization that we understand that you've got some obstacles that you've overcome, but also initiative that the city's serious about not having garbage pile up, especially for the residents and all the things that could possibly be in that garbage that are health hazard, biohazard. I don't even think about it because I want to go to sleep tonight. So so the purpose of my motion was to give them some time to pull this together, but if it were to fall out of compliance after that, is when there would be the $500 a day, and because it's a health and safety, there would be no limit on that fine. And I'm happy to put something in there to say if it falls out, if garbage accumulates, like the pictures that we've seen outside of that composter, then we can have another fine that would go into effect, but it's just for the garbage. Because I agree with the supply chain issue. I agree with the garbage issue. It happens on our street, and we're here in Alpharetta. It happens some days Some weeks the glass guy shows up, some days he doesn't, some weeks he doesn't. And sometimes you'll see the garbage guy come back and he's driving the recycling truck. And so I know that there's issues out there, and I feel like that they made an attempt, and we're taking their word for it that you've spent all this $100,000. So I'm open to, if we can get the wording right, to any part of that, but that was where I was going with my first motion.
So maybe another compromise would be, or just suggestion about the motion is, have the fine if they could come out of compliance, but maybe not directing them a timeline to get things done, to your point, but maybe we could ask them, once they get the gate done, the different projects done, to have them give evidence that that's done. When their special cameras come in, just shoot a picture, say this has been installed. The gating around the property has been installed. I'm assuming you would need a building permit from from community development to do that fencing, and then once it's completed, show evidence of that. So maybe not giving a timeline or a deadline, but just keeping them in accountability, and then also still keep the fine if it comes, the trash and debris comes back.
Okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we say that, let's give them a week to keep the garbage and everything, keep it up. So apparently it's in compliance, right? It's in compliance, even though some bulk shows up. But if we give them a week, and that if that gives them, because I think that what they're doing is they're keeping the garbage up. That's the big thing. I'm not worried about your gates, I'm not worried about your fence and all that. I was just putting that in there to give you time to get those components finished. But I'm starting to hear what the board members are saying is that in the meantime, this garbage next week could be back to one of these pictures. And then you would be out of compliance, and it would be another month and a half before the fine would kick in. So my thought is that we say if it falls out of compliance, that a fine of $500 a day goes into effect, where the for lack of a better term, out for you would be to stay in contact with code enforcement, so that code enforcement would be able to say, we understand they can't get a truck there or whatever, but you're telling me that you've got 2 temps that are going around picking garbage up. And so that shouldn't be a problem. So how does the board feel about that?
Yeah, I agree.
Could you do that?
Can you restate your motion then?
Okay.
I'm trying to put together the
Okay.
pieces.
It would be that we have, since we found them guilty of those 308.1.
Mr. Smith, is this going to be your motion, or are we still in discussion?
I'm going to give it a shot.
So we already made a motion to find them guilty or not guilty. Now would be the imposition of the charge, I guess, or not the charge, but the penalty for them. So you can make a separate motion specifically for that. You don't have to tie it to the guilty or not guilty part, earlier motion.
Yeah, okay. But I was just reading this here, so, since we found them. Okay. We'll give them a week from today, and that if the property falls out of compliance, after that time, it'll be a fine of $500 a day.
Okay. That's your motion? Okay.
We need a second. We need a second before we discuss.
Oh, I need a second.
I second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Did you understand any of that? Okay. The key is communication, and you'll be all right on But we want people, not just you, but the rest of your organization to understand that. And I think they understand that because they've been throwing money at it. But understand that the city's just not happy about garbage being around citizens. So, and I'm sorry you're having to go through that. It's a tough thing to tackle, but it sounds like you've got a plan in place, and I think it'll probably going to solve a lot of your problems. So really appreciate you being here, and if you have any questions, please let the city know, let the staff know, and they will be more than happy to work with you.
Again, I appreciate your time today. You were a very strong reminder, and I just appreciate everyone so gracious with us, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frey. Okay. Do we have any other business?
No, I just wanted to make it a motion to adjourn after.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn. You got a motion? Got a second? Got a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
I will real quickly remind you that May 12th is the restart of the Taste of Alpharetta